Hey, it's Captain Matt. I am the author of the book Boat Buyer's Secret Weapon, host of the channel here, and dun dun dun, today's video is the death of stern drives. You've probably seen one of my more popular videos from 3 years ago, the problem with stern drives, and know that the stern drive market has fallen off a cliff with several things that have happened in the industry, which we're going to talk about in this video. And the question is this boat right here, will this finally kill off IOs for good? Kill off those stern drives? Let's talk about it and see what's going on. So, you know, a stern drive, an IO, an inboard, outboard, it's a Mercruiser, it's a Volvo, one of those two. The market share went from about 60,000 boats back in the early 2000s that were fiberglass stern drives to now that number's well under 10,000, and it's just fallen off a cliff. Couple of reasons for that. If we look at the stern drive here, this is a cutout that's actually in my book I just showed you with all the propulsion systems, but we've got the engine inside the boat. Mercruiser is making their own blocks. Volvo is still marinizing GM engines. And then we come through the transom with the shift cables, the steering cables, with the shaft transferring the power from this engine out through the transom, down the lower unit, and then back over to the prop. Could be a single or a twin prop. That makes it more complex when there's two. We've also got the reverse drives that are out there that I think is propping up that stern drive number by allowing boats to have the surf capabilities and taking some of the surf market that still wants some luxury, still wants a comfortable ride that's really, really tough to get in a wake boat with their V-drive system with no ability to adjust the trim. So that's what's going on, and that's what we're talking about. But here's the problem with stern drives is, well, there's a bunch of them. And this is coming from a guy, I have a stern drive. I've got a Volvo 5.0, and I love it. But there are things that that are problematic with it. First, if you leave your boat in the water or for any extended time, the dissimilar metals, especially on the Bravo 3 drives, and with a stainless steel prop and the aluminum gear casing, you can start to get pitting and that metal eating metal because of the dissimilar metals, and sometimes electrolysis with a straight current in the water. You've got an impeller to change to keep up with regular maintenance, and that could potentially fail. You've got your gear lube that you have to keep up with, make sure that it has plenty, which can be challenging if you get fishing line in your prop. It can tear those seals up. You can get leaks in different places. And if that runs out, you can have catastrophic issues, and you also have to change it every couple seasons. Make sure you don't have water intrusion. The draft of the stern drives, it's easy to damage that propeller. Hopefully it's just a single stainless steel like this, which is about $1,000. My father-in-law has a Cobalt, and he has damaged their counter rotating props twice in less than 3 years. Hit something underwater, hit the lift one time. His son hit a marked obstruction in a cove. $2,500 a pop to replace those. And then you've got that transfer from inside the boat to outside the boat through this housing, which you've got your exhaust coming through. You've got a gimbal bearing, which is right here. You've got a U-joint, which is on the stern drive side, the outdrive side of it, that needs to be replaced. That needs to be lubed. You've got your bellows, which need to be replaced periodically. This is that gimbal bearing looks like right here that sits in that little hole there, needs to be greased. A lot of maintenance, a lot of complexity, and that's why a lot of the market has gone over to outboards, some to jet boats, some to V-drives with the expanding of wake sports, surfing specifically. And then you've got the other things. You've got saltwater and shallow water issues that come up. So we'll start with shallow water. We talked about the props. You know, that can happen getting into shallow waters, hitting obstructions like my in-laws, damaging the skeg, which sometimes can be, okay, just annoyance. Sometimes it's got to be fixed. When you get this much, now it's time to do something about it. But another point of damage that can occur, and then you add salt water into the mix where you're pulling water up and into that drive, into that engine to cool it, because the Merc cruisers, a lot of them are open water, raw water cooled, drawing from the source. If that source is salt water, a captain I hired to help me with my Confident Coastal Boater program said, the only thing salt water doesn't damage is salt water. Everything else it wreaks havoc on, especially metal. And you can get this in your risers and manifolds, the internal workings of your engine, and it can cause serious problems. And after, depending on how well you maintain it, 5, 7, maybe 9 years, if you're really, really good, you've got to then replace those risers and manifolds, which is a fairly expensive job. And if you leave the boat in the water, especially in salt water, you get the corrosion, you get the growth, and you can see how it started right here. This is where it all started, next to that dissimilar stainless steel prop to the aluminum, and it just spreads and spreads and spreads. Potentially, if it gets too bad, you have to replace the whole gear casing, which can be several $1,000s. So a lot of issues that you have to deal with. This is the trend. This is looking at runabouts and cruisers. If you look, what is that, 82% market share back in the early 2000s. That was actually 98. And then if we run down the line, it just drops off in 07, 08. Partly that drop was due to the economy. Remember the mortgage meltdown in 08, 09. It fell off the cliff there and just never recovered. Look how small it is as we get, this is just 2019. And those runabouts, instead of being 82% stern drive, now 69% are actually outboards. And what is that? 31% that's left is stern drives. And some of those have gone to jet drives. Now, outboards have come a long way and they're an awesome option. They're an awesome solution. But the downfall with outboards is they take up a bunch of the swim platform. It seems like a silly thing. Hey, it's better in saltwater. It's quieter. It's the same price, maybe even a little bit cheaper. We've got all of the maintenance is easier. All of these benefits of the outboard, and they're taking up market share, and they have wiped out the stern drives from 82% market share down to 31%. But that swim platform, it's why I love my stern drive. I will not give up my swim platform in fresh water. I don't run much in salt water, but it's this access to the water that people love. My girls will jump off that back swim platform 1,000 times. When they were little, it was 2,000 times. Now they're getting their wakeboards on, sitting on it, access to the water, sitting at the sandbar while they're playing volleyball. My wife and I are sitting on the swim platform, dangling our feet in the water. And it's just not as good with that big outboard sitting in the middle. And this is why I say, is this purple boat right here the one that's finally going to drive an end to stern drives? Well, let's take a look at some of the benefits of the way Kaima, which is the brand of boat that is, why they're having the impact. One, winterization. They've got a closed cool Inmar engine. So it's a Ford engine that's been marinized by Inmar. It's being used in Taiga, in ATX. There's several other brands that are using it. It's actually owned by StarCraft, which owns Nautique and Centurion and Supreme. Okay, so though that's the engine that's being used, and it's closed cooled, so you just drain one little heat exchange and boom, you're good. That's all you need to do for winterization. There's no gear lube to worry about water intrusion. There's no impeller to change. It's simple from that standpoint. And if we look at it, the simplicity of the engine is that engine delivers the power right to the prop shaft. This is, the scale's a little bit off on, this is another image from my book, but the engine will sit right here and it just goes right to the prop shaft, right out that nozzle. And it's much simpler than all of that transfer that you saw through that housing, where you've got cabling, you've got exhaust, you've got the power, the drive shaft, you know, you've got a lot of gearing, and then all of the gearing that's bathed in that gear lube down here in the lower unit. You just don't have that complexity, which are failures points, which are reasons why people hate stern drives. But again, access to the swim platform, you either have to go a true inboard, which gives you a ride that's not comfortable. Your speed is in the high 30s versus the mid 40s that you would get from a stern drive or a jet drive. And you also have an uncomfortable ride because it has no way to adjust, no trim to adjust. Whereas on the Kaima, they've got the Seakeeper ride system that gives you an incredibly comfortable ride. Again, the other jet boats on the market that have taken market share as well, Yamaha and Scarab, and others that have over the years that are no longer producing, but they don't have that ability to adjust the comfort of the ride. There's no trim on a jet boat because you don't have that big complex outdrive hanging out there. And the ride system is one of the keys matched with that jet boat. So if we look at the simplicity of it, I mean, look at in this cutout all these gears. I was just at the boat show. We'll have a video talking through this. There's actually one on my channel from last year's boat show. But if you look, you've got the power coming through the transom of the boat, transferred in this gear down. Then you've got a forward and reverse transfer. Sometimes it's up top, sometimes it's down low, depending on the drive. And then you transfer it once again out to the prop. So each of those transfer of powers in those gears is a potential failure point of complexity. Then you've got your trim rams, you've got your bellows, you've got your fluid that has to come through, you've got your gear lube, all of those areas. And if you look, you're hanging, you know, when the motor's down 3 feet down in the water. When you look at the reverse drive, which I think is buoying up the stern drive market with that surf capability, because now I don't have the danger of this prop getting me as a surfer being real close to the boat. It's actually forward. Even more complexity. Imagine now you've got all of that happening. You've got it coming down, and now you've got it coming back this way. You've got the dual propellers, which now puts more gearing in. And what happens when you hit an obstruction? Like I said, my father-in-law damaged 2 props with the regular gear. Imagine how much issue there's going to be if there's debris, if there's rocks, if you hit the sandbar and you get a little too shallow. And even when you trim it up, unlike this, you trim it up and everything's up out of the way. When you trim up a reverse drive, you really don't gain much clearance. It is, and I'll show you one on a picture. It's more challenging and more complex versus the jet system. Again, motor, shaft, impeller, nothing exposed. This is the bottom of the boat, the keel, right out to the nozzle, and then the reversing channels, if you know, for the steering and the reverse. Not a gear, just diverting the direction of water. Very simple with the bucket, and a very, very simple system. So no gear lube, no impellers, no complex things that are going to fail on you, which has caused them stern drives to lose their market share. And if you look, this is actually the pump that Kaima uses. And compared to the other jet boats out there there's, you know, much smaller and less durable, less beefy, this one is used on, not only is it paired with the big V8 engine, but it's also, this combination is used on big commercial vessels that are big and heavy. So it's actually designed to push big, heavy weight. It sounds like an inboard, which has a nice sound, not as quiet as an outboard. Outboards win there for sure, but it has a nice sound, and it's much quieter than jet boats. So if we look again, a surf wave, you can't surf on a regular stern drive because it's not safe, it's not advisable. So they do the reverse, but look at that. Even when it's tilted up, look at the clearance. Just, I mean, man, that's just asking to be damaging your prop and your lower unit, as well as the complexity. You know, it's a good surf wave. but it's not to the level of an inboard. And that's why this market, I think, is doing well. But the Kaima surfs really, really, really close to the top level inboards out there. It's an amazing surf wake, and it doesn't have those complexities, those failure points. So when you compare them, you've got a 15.5-inch draft compared to a 36-inch draft with propulsion and control. So if you were to cruise 10 miles an hour through a shallow area, as long as you didn't actually hit bottom, you're not going to tear anything up. I would never do that with my boat. Certainly not with the reverse drive. No winterization, no exposed props. It's just simple with few failure points, where the complexity of seals and gears and gimbal bearings and U-joints and gear lube and cables and prop shafts and bellows, trim cylinders, and on and on and on and on. That's where stern drives get their bad name. I mean, go watch my problem with inboard or my problem with stern drive videos, and their comments are like, I had one, it was the worst, I would never. But then the people are like, I love mine, I would not give up my swim platform. It's incredible. Oil change and grease a Zerk fitting. The maintenance is simple versus oil change, gear lube, and peller change, bellows, winterization. That gimbal bearing and the U-joints are going to need to be done at some point in most situations. And that's just general maintenance, not counting when something actually breaks or fails. A great surf wave, the only way you got a surf wave is if you go with the reverse drive, which has its own set of issues. Super easy handling. Really, it's great in salt water because of that impeller, because of the jet drive with the impeller. It's stainless steel. The engine itself is close cooled, so it's not sucking in that salt water and running it all through those jackets like the Mercruiser does in most cases. It's got 3/16 coated stainless, so not only is it 3/16, but it also has an extra coating on it to keep it to be stain resistant. And then that Seakeeper ride gives you a smooth, comfortable ride automatically. It just automatically adjusts in rough water. It's 1,000 measurements a minute and 100 adjustments with the tabs per minute. They're independent on each side on the transom. So it's where's the pitch, where's the yaw, and where's the roll of the boat, and it's gonna adjust accordingly. I mean, 100 times a minute. That's incredible. And in stern drive, hey, you can adjust that trim and you can get it real comfortable, but you do have to do it manually. Not a huge deal, but that's the comparison. It's been such a boat that made such an impact on me that I've actually invested in the company and am helping them, because I really can see that there's a ton of people that are going to say, I want the swim platform, I want comfort, I want to surf, I want to do it all. I want to go explore and not have to worry about tearing up my drive. I want quiet. I want easy maintenance. I want all of these things. I want a reliable boat, but I want that swim platform. I don't want to go with an outboard. I don't want to go with the traditional PWC style jet drives. And I think the Kaima is going to take a lot of stern drives, and with only, 8,000 boats last year, I don't know how long they're gonna stay in the game as Kaima adjusts sizes. So what's the actual boat look like? Well, it's a 23-foot length boat, LOA, from bow to transom, 25-foot from bow to swim platform, and you can see that platform is right at water level. It's a great place to hang out on. Power tower trailer, telematics, which means that it actually communicates back to the manufacturer for maintenance, for troubleshooting, for warranty issues, which is incredible. And the price point, it is more than what you're going to see on like a entry-level Bayliner or StarCraft or something like that. But the 23-foot boat is 140 to 179,000, depending on the tower, depending on the engine, if you have a trailer, no trailer. But if you want to learn more, go to KaimaBoats.com. Again, this is a boat that I am invested in. So I just want to make that super clear that I am not totally impartial on this, but I discovered this boat last year, really was interested in it. talked to Ed, who's actually the owner, the one in this photo, and made the decision that it was a boat I was sold enough on that it can surf, it can do water sports. It actually won Water Sports Boat of the Year from Boating and Water Sports Magazine. I've run it myself. I've been out there. I put it through my paces, and I was like, hey, this is something I can get behind. Have financially invested in the company, and we'll have ownership in the company as well. So it's something that it blew me away to invest my own money in it. And so if it's something that seems of interest to you, go check them out, and look forward to talking to you soon.